I'm trying to understand the pressure that's in the market right now. TSMC's ADRs are just modestly higher, but that was seen as a sort of a projection of confidence in the face of tariffs. What were the phone calls like that you had this morning and the things that crossed your desk?
Well, hey, Ed, thanks for having me. I mean, it's relatively quiet, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I think there would have been a lot more discussion and incoming calls had TSM changed their outlook or not provided a very positive second quarter guide. I think people are really in that watch and wait mode. Obviously, TSM and ASML this week in the semiconductor space were the two big earnings reports that people were going to react to. ASML was a bit disappointing. Stock fell 7%. TSM was very good, and it was expected to be good. But it was all signs clear. Everything looks good, both on the consumer front, because they make a lot of product for Apple and PCs, as well as the AI front. So think NVIDIA. And I think it's pretty disheartening for people when they see the stock fading most of the early gains, because this creates sort of well, if the companies that are reiterating and sounding positive are not really trading up, what's that going to mean when the rest of semis or even tech reports and possibly lowers guidance? What are the stocks going to do then? So that's why I think no one's really rushing to buy either strength or add to any names until they really see the stock reactions.
We should point out in America, it's a short trading week or shorter 4-day trading week. And though markets don't close early or anything on Thursday, I'm sure that there's some consideration of that towards the end of the week. But you said in your note that investors are highly engaged. What does that mean? They're going deeper on the research into supply chains, or they want to know specifically about each of the fabless chip names exposure to China or the fabs exposure to China. What do you mean by that, Jordan?
Well, what I mean is that people are definitely reaching out, asking questions, wanting to know what their peers and the investment community are doing and thinking. That's because the fundamentals really don't matter that much right now, unfortunately. So everyone's kind of feeling around, trying to get a sense of these macro headlines, what would be perceived as positive or negative, and what would cause people to get off their hands and deploy more capital. So that's what I mean by people are very engaged. They're not actually how do I say this? They're not anxious to go out and buy the dip. They're basically, but they do have a short list, I think, of names that they would prefer or names they would avoid. But they're very curious to see, like, what is it going to take to get people in the investment community incrementally more positive or negative. And unfortunately, we just haven't seen enough yet to go off of.
Next week, we get earnings reports from the likes of Tesla and Intel. What do you need to see from those reports to give you some confidence?
Well, they're very different, obviously. I mean, for Tesla, I think it impacts a lot more of the retail investment community. I don't tend to speak to a lot of large mutual funds or institutional owners who are, hanging a lot on how Tesla sounds. I think the bar is relatively low for Tesla. So I think it's more about plans for new potential vehicles and timing on that front, because most of the checks and the initial monthly reports have not been great in terms of their unit sales. I think for Intel, it's not about the numbers. I think this quarter should be fine. There is some risk that maybe there's a little bit of downside next quarter. I think more so it's the new CEO taking charge and outlining some of the strategy. And recall that the bigger event for Intel probably is going to come, I think, on April 29th when they're hosting a investor update on their foundry business. I think that's where you'll get more details, again, on their strategy and the technology that they're trying to move forward.